We gotta make sure everything good. You feel me? Mm-hmm. So we cooking with fire now. Good people, great people, God's people. Welcome to another episode of the Antidote, presented by Odi. You dig what I'm saying? Professor Odi on all of the platforms. Odi Lakachi, William Hezekiah Onkwe, and regular, regular conversations. So today's episode, once again, is an episode that we are digging into as it relates to men being collective healers instead of being raised as individual warriors. Now, the reason why I feel that this is important is because we as men tend to have, this issue with processing through our emotions or recognizing, what masculinity looks like for us due to being told that masculinity only exists in one way or can only exist in one way, right? Now, before we get into all of those things, my groups, my online groups are what's cracking right now, right? So my one-on-one coaching slots, they've all been filled by the grace of God. If they've not been filled by now, I definitely have people on my waiting list, so you all can still fill out applications. But right at this moment in time, I'm not taking on any more clients. So the best way to continue to TikTok, off of Instagram, and to really deeply engage in what it is that I read, or how it is that I come to these conclusions that I come to, or what it is that I do in my conversations with my clients or with my groups outside of social media, is to join me on ShareSpace. Now, ShareSpace is an app that is in development, right? It's going through a seed rounds of funding, and what they are doing is that they are building a platform where group coaching, group therapy, through people who are not only verified, but they are also trained. Some of them are licensed, some of them are very experienced coaches, and it is designed to be an insular group. It is designed for you to come into the group, to get updates about what people are talking about in the group, to be able to engage in conversations that are not only deeply critical and deeply challenging, but help you to continue to learn how to increase your emotional intelligence. So that's the platform. My particular group on the platform, I have two of them. One is my love group and the other one is my wealth group. My love group is the one that's most popular right now. We have about 40 members in the group right now, and we're continuing to grow. And the love group's focus is specifically on emotional intelligence, developing deeper and more impactful and more intense relationships, and developing deeper intimacy not only within the self but within the others. So this is the group that I can say is the closest to the way that it is that I do my traditional therapy and also my non-traditional coaching. So these are the conversations, the types of conversations that I have on my podcast, have on my timeline. Those are the types of conversations that we have in my love group. And for the people who have read, or what are the things that you read in order to get to this level of books, are the books that I share. So the book that we're reading right now is the Spirit of Intimacy. It's actually sitting right here by Sombufu Some, and it's essentially a tome that talks about how it is that we as individuals within the Black community or within African communities can learn how to re-engage or to realign with these ritualistic and spiritual engagements or behaviors, so that we as individuals empathy not only for the community but for ourselves, and to understand the true meaning of interdependence. So we're discussing this book, the themes in the book, what those things mean, and what it means to actually heal collectively and individually through the process of not only just structure, logic, and understanding, but also love, intimacy, empathy. So that's my love book club, and that's the book club, once again, that's the most popular. It's less than $7 a month to join. It's a subscription. Have roundtables bi-weekly, so this is where we discuss these things. You all can get this coaching, you can take notes, you can participate, and we all continue to grow and adapt as a community, and we continue to deepen our relationship with not only ourselves but our brothers and sisters. So my book club will never run out of books, y'all. I promise you. So there are 12 months in a year. We do a book club we do the book club every month, and we have conversations bi-weekly. I have, just in my physical collection, 88 books. Out of those 88 books, I would say about 40 of them are on the topic of black thought, black love, black relationships, black growth, black anything, black development, black self-development, black political development. About half of those books are on that topic. So that's what? 1, 12, 24, 36. That's more than 3 years of content. Yeah, y'all. I told y'all I'm prepared for it. I'm ready for it. So once again, if you want to join that group, the link is in my link tree on my Instagram bio, or you can DM me on Instagram, love or support, all capital letters, and the bot will automatically shoot you back a DM. Hopefully, I gotta actually check to see whether or not auto pay is auto paying. Y'all know how it go. But once again, if not, then I'll see your DMs and I'll shoot you the link anyway, right? So we doing it by hand or by bot, but either way, we getting it where we gonna get it. So once again, today we are talking about men being raised as individual than individual warriors. Now, why is this important? Well, first and foremost, it's rooted in challenging the overall premise of how masculinity presents itself within the community. So what does that mean? There's an entire conversation surrounding the idea that, there is no such thing as toxic masculinity. Well, I don't believe that to be true, because anything in too large of a quantity or in too aggressive of a quantity can be toxic. Anything, right? So one of the most effective poisons, or one of the most potent poisons that can be made, cyanide, is made with apple seeds, right? So in just a significant quantity in them motherfuckers, but still, something in enough or large enough quantities can be toxic, right? So cancer is the overdevelopment of cells in a cellular body that's not supposed to have that many, cellular organisms in it, right? It's an overpopulation. It's too large, or it does not serve the purpose of what that organ is supposed to be doing. Deposit, right? And it's toxic to the function of whatever organ or whatever surface it's attached to. Right. This is the reason why we do biopsies. This is the reason why, different treatments and therapies exist. This is the reason why we exercise those things, because we recognize that it's toxic to the functioning of the body. So what is this, or how does this relate to masculinity? If we do not recognize that toxicity can exist in the spiritual body of masculinity, we'll have no method to exercise it when we run across it. I'm going to say that one more time. If we do not recognize that toxicity can exist the spiritual body of masculinity, then we will have no way to exercise it. So what we are doing right now as men, when we are having this debate of whether or not toxic masculinity exists, I feel is a backwards conversation. It has to exist, because we are arguing that toxic masculinity does not exist, utilizing examples of healthy masculinity, or what we believe to be moderated masculinity, which I'm not saying is incorrect, but what I'm saying is that if we are doing this by Kemetic, Hermetic, African, however it is that you want to identify this universal law, there's a healthy, then there is an unhealthy. If there is a healthy, there is an unhealthy. Now, I think what it is that we are discussing in a less nuanced way is whether or not masculinity even in and of itself is inherently toxic, and I do not believe that. I don't believe that at all, because what that says is then every iteration ever across is inherently toxic. I don't believe that to be true, because that's us definition of what masculinity is and then attaching a binary to it. That's very American. It's very Western, right? So once again, I'm not very quick to say that this or that is all or nothing of anything or everything. Like, that's very difficult for me to, make those very clear cuts, because in nature, yes, some of those clear cuts exist, and they're along the lines of these things that exist in nature. So once again, how does this relate to masculinity? A lot of times in my individual coaching, therapy, group coaching, men will say women are nurturers. And then I will ask them, do you believe that as a man you are incapable of nurturing? As a man, do you believe that you are incapable of nurturing? Because if you do, then you believe that men cannot nurture. I say, okay, allow me to restructure. As a man, if you care for your body, let's just use that as an example. Are you not going to utilize particular avenues, techniques, and things in order to nurture it? Oh, but that's different. It's really not. It's not. It is a skill set applied to an association that is based upon a societal perception of what it is that you are supposed to perform as a man. You are nurturing your body through engaging in physical activity. If you are careful. A number of men, once again, in the space to exercise this hyper masculinity, will then engage with their bodies or nurture their bodies to the point to prepare them to be in some way, shape, or form destroyed or harmed. I understand the concept of being a warrior. I get that. Sincerely, there is a place and there is a time for that. And I also understand behaviors in order to show or in order to what is the word I'm looking for? Not compromise, but yeah, it's compensate. There we go. Oh, thank God. It's compensation, right? There is no need. So the latest conversation, for example, the latest conversation that's going on the interwebs right now is this conversation about men saying that I'm him. And in a lot of ways, I understand both sides of the conversation. On one side, men are saying, so we cannot allow ourselves the ability to, in a lot of ways, boost our own self-esteem or bolster our own self-esteems. And the other side of the argument is, well, if you're him, other people don't have to say that you're him. I'm sorry, you don't have to say that you're him. Other people will say that you're him. In my mind, either one of these things can be true at any moment in time, right? Because I say myself, like, I'm not introducing myself as him, but I will remind you if you forget. But once again, that's just my perception of how it is that I apply that particular, I guess you could say, gender role dynamic and how it is that I conceptualize my self-concept. But once again, coming back into this whole idea of, one, gender does not exist on a binary. And when I say a binary, we cannot monopolize the simply because we believe that that's the way it's supposed to happen. That's not ideologically sound. So basically what it is that you're saying is you or the culture that you exist from knows indefinitely throughout time and space how it is that these things are supposed to be performed. That's very arrogant of you. Quite imperialist. We ain't the Fire Nation, G. You gotta chill out with that. You dig what I'm saying? So, once again, coming back into this whole idea of diversifying what masculinity looks like and how it can be applied to particular situations, I firmly believe that men can be nurturers. I've seen men be nurturers. Men are completely capable of being nurturers, right? It's just recontextualizing what providership looks like in the space of being a man and how it is that masculinity can be, once again, diversified and performed in different ways, right? So what women will say is, it's not all about money, right? Providing is not just about money. I saw another podcast clip from the Hard and Soft podcast with Tahoe and them. Shout out to Tahoe. And Tahoe said, men are service animals. And the young lady said, no, you all have just internalized that you believe that this is the only way that you can contribute to a dynamic, one, or two, this is the only way that you can express your masculinity, or this is the only way that you believe that you can identify your self-worth. So once again, not being able to diversify what it is that masculinity looks like locks us in a one-dimensional state where it, once again, for us as men, specifically for us as black men, it does not allow us the fair space to be able to express our emotions, right? Which then results in the men who are saying, me saying I'm him is me being able to have that emotional space and that ability to lift myself up when I feel like others are not, right? And once again, we can go back and forth about the debate of, you know what I'm saying, men wanting to be applauded for work that they have not done, or men, at times men engaging in this peacocking that then results in unmet expectations because of things that they said that they could deliver on and they could not. This could go on and on. But the reality of the situation is, and the theme that can be extracted is, we are still defining manhood and masculinity across very slim dimensions. The dimensionality and the breadth of what it is that manhood could be is not being explored. And the reason being is because we want to ascribe to these rigid gender roles as men, because we believe that that's the only way or the natural way self-concept. And it is not. It is not. It is a carryover and a bastardization of 19th century Victorian era Europe. Great Britain. Said it in another episode, right? We are emulating. We are not criticizing. We are not creating. We are emulating. I take that back. There are men who are creating. There are men who are criticizing. There are men who are doing the work. I take that back, right? But these men, this group, are constantly criticized by other men who exist in the space of men can only exist in this one dimension. And it's like, no, that one dimensionality is harming so many more men than it's helping. And that's the point. Like, within this council of men, within this council of people, so I'm in the camp of masculinity is something that you can embody as a being. That does not necessarily mean that you are quote unquote a man or a woman. Like, those things don't necessarily intersect. They don't. These things are interdependent, and all of these things are amorphous and they're aspirational. So at some point in time, you have to boil it down to whether or not you as an individual are going to extend enough empathy to take care of yourself as a human and take care of somebody else as a human. Baseline. Humanity is baseline. So a number of men, once again, within this council of men, those of us who are doing the work and those of us who are not, there is this idea or this fight around the self-concept of male humanity. What is it? Right? Being a male human, what does that experience look like? Is there a standard way to do it? Once again, reading the spirit of... So May says that the West has a tendency to standardize everything. But in ritual is individual to the person and what it is that they need to bring to the ritual in order for it to feel correct. That sounds a lot like in Westernized psychology, your journey is immensely personal, client focused, person first. Once again, these are not new ideas. We create the history and the reality that we speak of. We create the themes and we create the archetypes in a lot of ways that we are measured by. If we are to standardize, then we can create the standard or we can break the standard. But once again, if we do not seek the emotional intelligence in order to heighten our self-awareness, in order to critically assess this intersection, I mean this intersection of blackness, maleness, humanness, and knowing that we are energetic bodies or spiritual bodies, looking at ourselves, literally practicing looking at ourselves in more than one dimension. Just that practice. Like for men. So, of course, y'all know I'm finna come with the quotes, you feel me? And you know I'm finna come with some bell hooks quotes, because the will to, I keep telling y'all, bro, the will to change, bro. What amazing tone. But we constantly talk about we do not have, or we don't not have a multitude of examples of healthy masculinity, right? We talk about this a lot. So, feminist masculinity would have as its chief constituents integrity, emotional awareness, assertiveness, and relational skill, including empathic, autonomous, and connected. Say that one more time. Feminist masculinity would have y'all gotta excuse me, I'm so paranoid about my lips being ashy. Woo! Feminist masculinity would have as its chief constituents integrity, self-love, emotional awareness, assertiveness, and relational skill, including the capacity to be empathic, autonomous, and connected. What about that says weak? What about that says weak? Right? Empathic, autonomous, and connected. Integrity, self-love, emotional awareness, assertiveness, and relational skill. What about this says weak? What about this says I cannot provide? What about this says my physical strength will be compromised? What about this says my self-concept will no longer portion necessary for it to function? Integrity. Men talk about integrity all the time. We talk about integrity all the time. All the time. Yet in a lot of situations, in order for us to obtain partners, we do things that do not have integrity. Right? Self-love. They're gonna get real upset, right? Black men can learn how to exercise better self-love through treating their sons less harshly than they were treated. I'm gonna say that one more time. Black men can practice deeper and more critical self-love by treating their sons and black boys gentler than they were treated. We as men have the knowledge to understand that the way that it is that we have been performing masculinity for the past hundreds of years has not always been beneficial to the needs and the formation of man. It has been for the needs and the formations of society. So in other words, we as men have constantly been told that we have to produce ourselves in such a way to be prepared just in case the world hits us. Just in case we have to go to war. And I'm not saying these things don't exist. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we believe in a lot of ways, that we have to deny ourselves self-love in order to prepare ourselves for potential martyrdom. How can you love on yourself when you are expected to die? I get so many brothers that ask me, brother, for me to plan past 25 is because I did not believe that I would be alive past 25. I did not believe that I was going to make it this far. Most black men, a lot of black men operate from spaces of self-preservation and not self-love. And I don't mean self-preservation in a manipulative, intentionally harmful way. I mean self-preservation in this idea that they're locked in a consistent feeling or idea that there is combat. When I am challenged, I have to be prepared to fight. No. Why not be prepared to discuss? Why not be prepared to listen? Why not be prepared to seek understanding? All of these things require nuance and particular levels of gentleness in order for you to navigate. But once again, we as men are so concerned with being warriors that we have not explored the nuance. We have not explored the nuance of also having the capacity to heal and to repair. Right? And once again, I'm not saying that we as men are not doing the work. What I'm saying is that there's more work to be done. Right? Because in a lot of the books that I'm reading, especially within womanism, intersectional feminism, things of that nature, there's a question of whether or not we raise non-patriarchal boys. And whether or not we as men support the raising of non-patriarchal boys. Because the reality of the situation is that the softness or the gentleness or the empathy that men are looking for exists within ourselves. It sincerely does. It does. We have just been taught, that nurturing, that empathy, that healing exists more plentifully in women. No, it exists within you as well. You have access to that reality as well, that energy and that knowledge as well. You have just been bamboozled to believe that being a warrior is somehow inherently more valuable than being a healer. What happens to the people who get injured at war? Is a doctor not a form of a healer, and do we not usually assume that doctors are men? But then we'll turn around and we'll bemoan or we'll demean a man who's a nurse. Has absolutely nothing to do with the occupation. It has to do with the word nurse. Because we associate that with women. My friend Waltz. It's a wordplay game, my G. It's word association. It's ideological coupling. The same way it was coupled, you can uncouple it. Right? So the second quote that I have is, learning to wear a mask, that word already embedded in the term masculinity, is the first lesson in a patriarchal masculinity that a boy learns. He learns that his core feelings cannot be expressed if they do not conform to the acceptable behaviors sexism defines as male. Acts to give up the true self in order to realize the patriarchal ideal. Boys learn self-betrayal early and are rewarded for these acts of soul murder. Self-betrayal is the act of moving away from oneself's true intentions, true resonance, or true alignment. That is self-betrayal. In other words, you don't do something or you don't move on something because of how it is that you believe other people will respond. A lot of us as men have been taught that self-betrayal is the key to masculinity. Self-betrayal is the key to masculinity. And I know a number of women probably don't see it this way, but I'm gonna say it to you like this. developmentally speaking, there are a number of men believe that once they hit a particular point, either in a relationship, in their lives, things of that nature, they are tasked or required to, in a lot of ways, carry the weight of the world. They genuinely believe that they carry the world in women, which then creates a mentality that I have to give my body to this work, or I have to give my body to this building, to this family. Otherwise, this family will not continue. That's one. But also, two, on the other side, there are a number of men who feel like that, not necessarily, because I'm not saying that the reality, I'm saying that that emotional intersection is not being validated. So in other words, that pressure or that feeling of providing as a man is not being validated due to this perception of me not having emotions. Okay. I can hear that. And there are two things that we can reconstruct about that reality. One, each time a man was building something, there was a woman who was assisting him in building it, whether it be through ideological planning, whether it be through providing or collecting resource, or whether it be through managing the household. These are still or community building tasks. The tasks, not the people doing them, the tasks. Attempt to claim all of the credit for, building societies, doing this and doing that. It's like, yes, we engaged in the action, but once again, who assisted us in gathering and providing and managing the energy? It was women. It was women. So as much as you are feeling this feeling of I have to sacrifice my whole self in order for this to come to fruition or for this to come to reality, there are a number of women who feel the same thing, which goes into my second point. We as men sincerely believe that empathy makes us weaker, which then locks us out of that level of intimacy or that level of relational skill that allows us to say to somebody, you know what? I understand where it is that you're coming from. I feel how this can be painful, and I can validate this for you, and I will now assist you, not do this for you, not enable, assist you in a communal effort to move whatever this material or immaterial obstacle is. A part of healing is removing an obstruction that is not supposed to. So once again, what does that skill set, what does that discernment, what does that extension of empathy do with gender? What does that have to do with masculine or feminine? It does not. It is the way in which we were taught. Now, coming back to that, why is that important? In how to be healers or teaching healers will move us away from this ledge that black men are teetering on as it relates to mental health crises. Genuinely. Learning how to communicate more effectively, right? Learning how to be connected. Learning how to increase your emotional awareness. Learning how to criticize and challenge how it is that other men are saying that you need to be a man. It's like, nah, G. No, I don't. Ideologically, I don't agree with that. So behaviorally, I'm not engaging in that. Right? Now, Some people are going to agree or disagree with me on this. Hey, it is what it is. My mama told me this when I was younger. She said, William, there are some people who only understand communicating in violence. So once again, at some point in time, as a man, I do not believe that things have to escalate into gunfights or shootouts. I never believe that that's necessary. I will not ignore the historical context of men or societies coming to blows in order to resolve a conflict. So once again, if somebody swing on you, I'm in the camp of swing back. That's just me, right? But once again, do you have the emotional awareness and the cognitive tact for it to not get to that point, right? All of those things are related to emotional intelligence, and a lot of these things are related to, once again, raising men as healers. Because genuinely a healer is somebody who has a highly adept skill set in recognizing emotional disarray, emotional dis-ease, or emotional disconnect. And they have the skill set to either A, assist somebody in reattaching themselves to their emotional state, B, assisting somebody in understanding the physiological regulation techniques that they can utilize in order to assist them in regulating their central nervous system and their parasympathetic nervous system, or C, somebody who is able to make sense of their symbolic associations and understandings of words, syntax, language, and culture in order for them to present them with an alternative presentation of what somebody identifies as facts in order for them to continue to process past that disconnection or that stall in thinking. In my mind, in terms of energetic healing or in terms of mental health healing or in terms of thought healing, that's how that goes. But once again, this does not mean that with another one of my colleagues, I think the dope black social worker, in her comments, and we were talking about non-traditional forms of therapeutic engagement, and I said therapy and therapeutic are not the same thing. And when she wrote back her comment, her first comment said, yeah. In my mind, I was like, now wait a minute. Whoa. I bet, please. So I was like, I respectfully disagree. You don't have to be a therapist in order to do something that is therapeutic. You can learn how to engage in more therapeutic behaviors in just passing conversation. So the way in which I engaged a lot of ways was therapeutic. Why? Because I know that there are a number of people, not only just on the internet, but black men specifically, who will jump to either an ad hominem attack or deconstructing somebody's authority in order to make themselves seem more correct. It's like, no, I just disagree. And you wrong. Right? So then she hit me back. She hit the comment back, and she said, that's the reason why autocorrect needs to be corrected. And that's the reason why words are important. I forgot to put is not. All that was an emotionally aware and emotionally intelligent exchange based upon an ideological, subjective phenomenon. In other words, she and I share perceptions, but we may not look at things the same way. And at that point, we may have had an ideological difference. Cool. That does not mean that this person is challenging my authority. That does not mean that this person is challenging who it is that I am as a person. No, it just means that we ideologically disagree. Right? So once again, healing, being therapeutic, creating a therapeutic environment does not require you to be a behavior scientist. It simply requires you to be empathetic. It simply requires you to recognize that we are interconnected and interdependent. It simply requires you to engage in some self-awareness. And it simply requires you to understand that everybody is their own human experience that you can either positively to, take away negativity from, add positivity to, or remove positivity from. That is one binary that, hey, you either give or you take, or you help to maintain and manage. That is therapeutic. That's not therapy. Right? And you go to therapy not to be rewired. No, you go to therapy to learn therapeutic skills. A personal trainer to your body is a therapist to your mind. Right? Or if I really want to shake the table, a pastor to your spirit is a therapist to your soul. A good pastor. A good pastor. Oh, and by the way, I'm one of those people who believes that spirit and soul are slightly different. Spirit is what you come here with. Soul is what you gather while you're here. Right? So spirit is what you come here with. Soul is what you gather while you're here. So that when you transcend, the knowledge that you have gathered, the knowledge that you have gathered goes back into the overall pool or the ether, or contributing back to this, ever growing knowledge. So, right. So once again, it's this idea of things existing in balance. It's this idea of things existing not only just as the way that it is that we believe that they should be, but also being open-minded enough to identify how it is that things can be. That is a healing process, right? That is a diversifying process. How is this relevant to men? Why is this relevant to men? Because we as men do not allow ourselves to diversify masculinity. We don't. A lot of times we don't, right? Even though there is anthropological evidence, right, that says that we've been having this conversation for 2,500 years. And we still ain't got it right. So once again, and actionably, right, being a person who can comfortably come into a space and say, you know what, I'm going to pride myself not on the amount of people who will say yes to me or the amount of people that I can control, but the amount of people who I can help feel safe, secure, seen, right? How do I, as a man, assist myself in being safe, secure, and seen? Right? How do I, or what skills do I need to learn in order to be gentler with myself? Right? What does my internal narrative say about me? What words do I use to describe myself when nobody else is around? And what can I do to change them if they're overwhelmingly negative? Right? What are some other things that I can consume that will not tell me I'm worthless? That will not tell me that I'm the scum of the earth? That will not tell me that somebody's always afraid of me? What are some other things that I can consume? What can I create that defies this narrative? Right? How can I be a deviation from this norm if this norm is overwhelmingly negative? How can I be the difference that I want to see? How can I be the better man that I tell other women to go find? How can we be the better men we go tell women to find? I do not believe that we ask ourselves that question enough. Right? Not necessarily how can I be a better man for women? No. How can I be myself? How can I be a better man Again, my self-love. Self-love is not something that is selfish. Self-love is something that is required in order to have a strong self-concept. Do you love who you are, not who people say you are? Do you, man? And if not, what can you do to change it? Because there is something that you can do. Right? And usually, it's the communication. Usually it is the way that you communicate. It is what you will and will not accept. Right? Yo, I'm not gonna tolerate you speaking of me in that nature. I'm not gonna get violent, but once again, I know myself. And I'm not disagreeing with you, but I also do not believe that this is who I am completely. I have to add a little bit more variation and nuance to that. No, like you do not have to be the black man that other people want you to be. You can, right? And on top of that, we as black, I firmly believe that we as black men are better, much better, much more regal, much more graceful, much more gentle, much more intelligent, and much more creative than to have to rely on an ideology that builds our self-concept. Get it? I don't fucking get it. I don't get it. And it's not even on no we was Kane shit. No. We as black men to operate from a space where we were considerate. We were considerate of what it is that was necessary, not only just for ourselves, but our community, women included. Right? And I'm not saying we don't do that now. What I'm saying is that we have lost our love to the militarization of black maleness. We have lost our ability to love to the militarization of black maleness. And once again, I'm not saying that we cannot be militant. Militarization implies that you are only producing black boys to be soldiers. You are not producing them to be scholars. You are not producing them to be thinkers. You are not producing them to be creators. You are not producing them to be intellectuals. You are producing them only to be soldiers. We need to learn how to serve the needs, the emotional needs of ourselves as black men through healing what it is that we believe to be masculinity. We as black men need to continue to raise ourselves from a holistic space, right? Our own trauma with our maleness, our own trauma with masculinity, our own trauma with these belief systems that hold us to this perspective that we are not worth anything but what we can produce. That's unfair. We are only worth the amount of people that we can get to do something for us. Or we are only worth the amount of babies that we can produce. We are more than that. We are only worth the performances that we do in front of large crowds. We are that other people say that our bodies cut up into pieces are worth. We are worth more than that. We are worth more than that. How we heal black men is through healing ourselves. How we heal ourselves is to coming to terms with how it is that we have been hurt by our own performance of masculinity or by our own upholding of the patriarchy and being honest about it. Talking about how it is that people have put their hands on us, people have beat us. People have raped us too. People have sexually assaulted us too. This does not overshadow what it is that happens to women, but we as men are not vocal enough about the traumas that we experience at the hands of the patriarchy. Us are not willing to say, yes, as a man, I was beaten into manhood and some of that shit was unnecessary. We have to be more willing to say, you know what, this section of the book, yeah, in this edition, we're going to take this out. We're going to retain more holistic ways of communicating with our families and with our communities. We're going to be more willing to yield to the idea of collaborative and cooperative power, instead of everybody being up to our egotistical projection of. We cannot force somebody to identify us as a man. We can only where we believe that the manhood that we are engaging in is the manhood that we know is the right and truthful manhood for ourselves and for the betterment of ourselves, our communities, our children, and most importantly for our black boys. We are the archetype, we are the model, we are the people who set that tone. So once again, what if we decided to begin raising ourselves and raising black boys as healers? What if we began seeing ourselves as black men as having the capacity to be nurturing? What if we believe that we can grow our children in such a way where they are whole, secure, and fashionable? And we believe that we could play secure and fashionable. And when I say fashionable, I don't mean in a materialistic sense. I mean fashionable in such a way where you are able to understand and place yourself in and willing to accept love in order to grow, in order to continue to heal. So, good people, great people, guys, people. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. I gotta get ready for clients. And yeah, on the therapy tip. So if anybody has any feedback for the episode, drop it in the comments. Definitely gonna try to begin uploading more of these to Spotify. I'm so sorry. Yes, there is a Spotify link. Yes, I will put it in my link tree. And yes, I will put these episodes on Spotify, beginning to be more committed to that. I'm still, learning getting my bearings with the podcast, John. But yeah, and also y'all start looking out. I'm finna be in a couple of really cool things coming up. So yeah, y'all look out for that. And peace, love, soul, and butter rolls. Thank y'all for rocking with me. I'll see y'all next time.